Today I'm going to look at paradoxes and their application for our walk before Yehovah, how we interpret his word and how we put it into action. Paradoxes can be fun things to think about, but as to when paradoxes arise with the word of Yehovah and what it tells us, we're going to look at what our response to them should be. This is the definition of a paradox. If you want to pause it and read it so that you can understand what they actually are, I'm going to run through a couple of better known paradoxes so that you can see what they are in reality. Okay, so a crocodile who has stolen a child promises the parent that their child will be returned if and only if they correctly predict what the crocodile will do with the child. Okay, will the crocodile return the child, or will the crocodile not return the child? If the parent guesses that the child will be returned, the crocodile can keep the child. The parent would be incorrect in that case, so the crocodile could do what the crocodile wanted to do. If the crocodile has said, "I will return the child if you correctly guess whether I will return him or not," and the parent guesses that the child will be returned, then logically the crocodile can do either. If the parent says that the child will not be returned, if the crocodile returns the child, the parent was incorrect, so we shouldn't have returned it. But if he keeps the child, the parent was correct, so we should return it. So that is a paradox. I will return the child if you guess what I will do. If the parent guesses that he will not return it, then he creates a paradox according to the rules that the crocodile set out. If he doesn't return the child, the parent is correct, and according to his own rules, he should have returned it. If he does return the child, the parent was incorrect, so we shouldn't have returned it according to the rules that the crocodile made up. These two men are called Grelling and Nelson, and they came up with the Grelling-Nelson paradox around the words heterological and autological, which can also be homological. Okay, a heterological means a word that does not describe itself. Autological or homological means a word that does describe itself. So their paradox is the word heterological itself heterological? Heterological meaning that it doesn't describe itself. If the answer is yes, the word heterological is itself heterological, that would mean that it does not describe itself, and if it does not describe itself, that would mean that it does describe itself. If the answer is no, the word heterological is not itself heterological, that would mean that it does describe itself, and if it does describe itself, that would mean that it doesn't describe itself. So you see the paradox. Now, the key to understanding paradoxes is to understand that they do not exist in reality. They only exist in the mind of men. Here are some examples of paradoxes that exist conceptually but do not exist in reality. None of these things exist in reality. You could make a Mobius strip, I suppose. The one that's there in the upper right hand corner. You could create that, but these things are conceptual paradoxes that are created by things such as shading. Here we see a paradox that can only exist because it is the creation of the mind of men. A blue button that says the red button is false. The red button says the blue button is true. But if the blue button is true, that means that the red button is false. So you see the paradox that is created there. Another example of this paradox can be seen in this sentence. If this sentence is false, then it can't be true that the sentence is false. So this is a paradox. Paradoxes end up in men tying themselves in knots. But the thing to remember with paradoxes is that they are only created in the minds of men. They do not exist in reality. With the word of Elohim, we can create paradoxes with hypothetical situations. Like somebody might say, what if the only food that you have to eat is pork and you would die otherwise? Should you eat it? Now this might stimulate the mind to think about such things, but this is not a situation that exists in reality. It's just an invention of the mind. You might say if you don't work on the Sabbath, that you will not have any money and your family will starve. This again does not exist in reality. The place that I commonly encounter this is when considering self-defense. What if someone breaks in and is going to rape your wife and kill your children? Should you not defend them? Well, the key to understanding that seeming paradox is to recognize that actually that situation was created in the mind of a man. It is not actually reality, and hypothetical situations are not helpful to us because they are not real. It is important for us to remember that the word of Yehovah is always true, that he is righteous and he is just, and he doesn't instruct us in things that are not so. So it's not helpful to create situations in one's mind where that would not be the case. Otherwise you end up like this fellow here, tied in knots, not because the word of Yehovah doesn't make sense, but because your own machinations of your mind don't make sense. Yehovah willing, I'll see you next week.